Well, hello and happy Thursday. So happy to be with all of you today. I am Brandi of Brandi Michelle, and I'm a happiness coach. I help successful people who have, for the entirety of their life, believed that achievement would lead to happiness, and only to realize that it is an unending hamster wheel. I help them shift that paradigm and make happiness a priority of itself, and to ultimately increase their happiness set point. And today we're going to have a conversation about comparison and how comparison impacts our lives. As we have this conversation, feel free to share any comments in the comment box here, any questions that you might have on this topic or thoughts. And if you're watching this at a later date, you also can feel free to share any comments or thoughts. I always come back to these and answer any questions that come up. So I would love to hear from you. Also, definitely wanted to share with everyone that every month on the first Monday of each month, I launch a cohort of the Joy Blueprint. So there's one coming up on August 7th. And the Joy Blueprint is a course that takes you through 20 lessons, each of which helps you kind of evaluate your happiness set point and things that you can do to change. So you'll get exercises that will help you embody the work. And also you'll be part of the Joy Blueprint community. And we have weekly live coaching calls as well. So would love to see you there. I am including my website link so that you can hop on. All right, let's talk a little bit about comparison, right? Comparison has recently put such a tight grip on all of us. Definitely don't want to blame anything external to us, because we want to take radical responsibility for our own lives. But I do believe, like, in this time of increased media, increased social media, that there is this tendency to really compare ourselves to others. And as we think about our own journey of self-discovery and growth and personal development, I think comparison is inherently an aspect that we want to evaluate, right? And really to see like how we've kind of aligned with these societal expectations, right? Because really constant comparison can have this like tremendous impact on our own well-being, self-esteem, and ultimately like that happiness set point, right? Because inevitably what we tend to do is like compare ourselves to people who are doing like exponentially better than us, quote unquote, in some kind of like small area of life, right? Like not the totality, because we're always looking at like one metric, and we see someone who's doing better, and then we compare kind of the totality of our life to that like individual aspect of theirs. Or we can oftentimes also be like, making ourselves feel better by looking down on other people. And neither one of these has like the far reaching impact on our lives, like in a positive way. So we want to be aware of this, right? And there's definitely some strategies that we can put in place to move away from comparing ourselves to other, right? And so when you think about comparison, it ultimately has, as I mentioned earlier, this just ability to kind of distort the perception of ourselves and our lives, right? Like what we're seeking to align to is like this complete and utter love of who we are. And it is only from that place of like loving ourselves fully that we can actually evolve, change, up level, align with the highest version of ourselves, whatever you want to call it, right? But when we're constantly comparing ourselves to other, and we then start to realize that what we're really doing is measuring our worth, measuring our success, measuring our life essentially to this external standard, right? When we really should have this kind of internal compass by which we guide our lives. And it's very unrealistic and oftentimes arbitrary because think about it. What you are seeing of another person's life is a small sliver, even of your closest friends, right? So even when you love someone dearly, family member or friend, or spend lots and lots of time with them, you do not have an entire picture of their life, right? Even when you live with people, you may see externally what's happening, but you're not in their head. I actually was on a panel this morning and someone said on the panel if they could have any superpower it would be to read people's minds, and I think that what we come to know is even people who have this as a gift, you never know the totality of what other people are thinking, right? And so, this mindset of comparing our entire lives to an aspect of someone else ultimately serves to help us feel more inadequate, to cause us to have more self doubt about who we are, and leads to greater unhappiness, right? And so we want to think about this, like, why are we taking an action that is causing us to be more dissatisfied, to reduce our self-esteem, and ultimately to it only serves to hinder our personal growth, right? Like, it isn't going to be a contributing factor, right? Now, comparison is different from saying, oh, I see that this person has achieved something that I'm looking to achieve, and I'd like to talk to them, partner with them, collaborate with them so that I can learn in an effort to further that skill, achieve a similar goal, right? So those two things are different, right? And so I know a while back we talked about scarcity, and really comparison is this scarcity mindset, right? Because it's like they have this and I don't have this, right? And we also are looking through this lens of like their success, happiness, life is diminishing to my own, right? And what we want to do when we see other people who've achieved goals that we are seeking, or have something in their life that we would love to embody, we want to see that as possibility, right? So when I look out into the world and I speak to many of you and see that you've achieved something in your life, it reminds me, if that is something I aspire to do, that it's possible. And from this place of possibility, I shrink the gap from the idea to actually being able to achieve it, right? So we shrink that gap. So what are some things that we can do to really break free from this like trap of comparing ourselves to others, and really to ultimately foster a more healthier an authentic perspective about ourselves and our lives, right? And get to this place of like self acceptance and embracing that we are all unique, we are all different, and our timing is going to be different about what we achieve in our lives, and our overall trajectory and the road that we walk, all of these things are going to be different, right? And so we embrace these attributes and we embrace ourselves first by just having like self-awareness, like, oh, I am someone who tends to compare herself, himself, to others, and to really be curious about why that is, right? Because we're all on our own journeys. And then also to have this like beautiful self compassion, right? Like when you're really compassionate with yourself and you have grace with yourself, you're going to be less likely to compare yourself to someone else, because that comparison is really like saying to yourself, you should have that. You should be doing that. Why do they have that and I don't? Right? And when we sit in this place of like acknowledging our individuality and the strengths that we do bring to the table, which are always going to be different and unique from others, that puts us in this really beautiful place. Right? The other thing is like being really grateful. I know I say this a lot, but gratitude is like the ultimate healer. It really does allow us um, to just like embody the life that we have, to love the life that we have. It reinforces in so many beautiful ways that we've got it. We've really got it right. So we want to be extremely grateful for our own lives and for the things that are showing up in our lives. And when we do that, we're going to be less likely to look outside of ourselves, right? Because we're spending our energy focused on what's going on in our own lives. And when you consciously acknowledge and appreciate your own blessings, you shift away from lack, you shift away from external, and you really go inward. That's going to give you this sense of contentment and remind you about all the abundance that is available to you. Right? And you also want to like think about who you're surrounding yourself with, right? And are you in a community of people? Are your friends like-minded? Do they also see that, this is a time in our collective journey where we can be looking more inward, right? And we can cease to look external to ourselves from a comparison perspective, right? And so the more that you surround yourself with people who like really uplift you versus perpetuate comparison, like, oh, did you see what so and so got? Did you see so and so went on this vacation or got a new car or moved to this neighborhood or has this job or lost 20 pounds or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And so we want to be in community with people who are really like nurturing themselves and their own journey, right? Because that's really going to like give you this beautiful wraparound experience where the work that you're doing in your own life is similar to the work of the people you surround yourself with. So we want to like just be in this place of self-reflection, right? So if you find that you are a person who has spent a good part of your life comparing yourselves to others, whether it's comparing that they're better than you or comparing that you believe that you're better than them, you want to do some self-reflection of why that's been so important to you, right? And set some goals around like, what are my values? What are my aspirations? And how do I get there through this kind of authentic journey of self-acceptance? And define success on your own terms. And that's going to give you a sense of personal fulfillment, and you're going to really get your power back. So that's what I wanted to share today about comparison. I think that we are all, as I mentioned earlier, like prone to compare ourselves to others. It's like such a prevalent aspect of society right now. And so we really want to be intentional about shifting from that place and shifting to this place of like really just loving ourselves in this beautiful way. And so I invite you all to examine this aspect of your life. I love to hear from you about how you have moved away from comparison, how you're working through this. And I'd also love to hear any questions that you might have about comparison. I know for sure that for me, it's like it's a constant process. All these things that I talk to you guys about are things that I have gained awareness about. And, some days are better than others. So we're on this journey together. And I love hearing from you. Because I appreciate that you all are part of my community that is committed to really aligning with the highest version of yourself. So as a reminder, I publish a journal entry on the 1st and 15th of every month. You can find it at my website, www.brandymichelle.com. You can also learn about the Joy Blueprint there, which again is a 4-week course with 20 lessons, as well as exercise that really help you to think about your own happiness journey, up level your happiness set point in this 1 month period of time, join a like-minded community, and also have weekly coaching calls with me. So I'd love for you to join me for the August 7th cohort. Until next time, I wish you all well, and I remind you all that changing the world starts with you. Imagine if we had 8 billion happy people, what a world we would be. And so let's go. Bye now.